Hello and welcome back to Reading for Pleasure with me in my kitchen. So, RMS Titanic, Saturday 13th of April 1912. I really enjoy the morning ritual of having tea and scones in my room and as much conversation as we can manage before the peal of a bell calls Robert away. He has taken to bring an extra scone or two and joining me in my meal. Is it scone or is it scone? Who knows? How is it down in steerage? I asked him today. Oh, quite comfortable, he assured me. I'll be right pleased to journey that way myself. I've seen ships where second class is not as nice as our third. I gave that some thought. How are your cabins then? Well, we have little time to spend there, he said, after a pause, and it was a great piece of luck my catching on with this crew. Many's a week I could find no work, and my mum sore needs the money. That accent, ugh. My brother made his passage as a cabin boy on a fair rotter of a steamer. I said, I never thought I would be anywhere but steerage. He winked at me. So we both had a bit of luck then. As always, bells began to chime and he was off. Each morning he places on my tray the Titanic's small newspaper, the Atlantic Daily Bulletin, and I picked it up to read. The stories are more chatty than informational, and report items such as the number of miles we've cruised during any given 24-hour period. As the weather has been no handicap, the ship seems to do better and better, and there is a daily contest for passengers to predict the actual figure. We're expected to arrive in New York on Wednesday morning. Oh, I hope William is standing down the dock waiting for me. Later. This afternoon, while I was on the starboard side promenade, Colonel Astor stopped to pat and admire Florence. He had his own dog in tow, and I asked him what the dog's name was. When he said Kitty, I laughed, which clearly pleased him. He may be an imposing figure, but how much could he dislike a man who named his dog Kitty? Mrs. Carstairs and I took tea in the Café Parisien instead of the lounge. The atmosphere is much less formal than the dining saloon, and we had a harmonious time. There is a light, airy feel to the room, complemented by numerous plants and wicker chairs. Trains of ivy actually climbed the walls. We were joined by several other ladies, one of whom had a great booming laugh which she employed regularly. Her name is Mrs. Brown, and people seem to think her amusing but boorish. Since she sat right down next to me and plied me with friendly questions, I liked her at once. If anything, discovering I was a mere companion only increased her attention. She feels I will find America smashing and that Boston will suit me well, as the area is famous for its educational institutions. I was encouraged by this information and hope that her predictions are accurate. For some reason, Mrs. Carstairs is tired of bridge today, so I played hearts with her, still the only game I know, until it was time to help her dress for dinner. She instructed me to wear my paisley dress and to save the green silk for tomorrow. I did as I was told, and she surveyed me critically before asking me to take off what she described as that dreadful locket. This stung me. But I only said mildly that it had belonged to my mother, and there were no circumstances under which I would ever take it off. None whatsoever. All right then, she said, studying my neckline, and finally sighed. I would lend you a scarf. It was not until we were waiting for a lift that she remembered to apologise for offending my mother's memory. I accepted this graciously, but touched the locket protectively. All it contains are tiny dark locks of hair from when William and I were babies. I should rather have photographs of my parents, but I treasure it regardless. We were heading for the a la carte restaurant, which everyone calls the Ritz, after a famous hotel. I may not appreciate the connection, but I'm sure there is one. The Ritz is smaller and more elegant than the dining saloon. The chairs are upholstered in a floral pattern, and the groupings are less linear. The walls are panelled with an almost golden shade of wood, and there are many inset mirrors. Mr. Hollings, who's dining with us again, says that the mirrors give the room the illusion of space. I took him at his word. Our napkins have been folded into upright cones, and the gold-rimmed china is an entirely different pattern from the dishes I've seen elsewhere on the ship. I feel sorry for the people who have to wash all of them. I've studied French, but not sufficiently enough to translate the menu with confidence. It is possible to order a full 9 courses, but even my appetite is not quite equal to that task. I tried caviar for the first time, and do not expect to repeat the experience. Very salty, very strongly flavoured, and the eggs had a slippery feel I found unappetising. I seemed to be the only one at the table to have this reaction, as the caviar disappeared twice as fast as the plover's eggs and the other appetisers. With each course, we're served a different wine. I sipped some of the glasses, but I'm yet to come close to finishing one. When the waiter offered to bring me some lemonade, I accepted eagerly. After the meal, I was glad to have the excuse of needing to walk Florence, as I felt quite overstuffed. How do ladies like Mrs. Carstairs manage to eat at all while laced into those corsets? I count myself lucky that I've never been forced to put on such a restrictive garment. I suppose it will be inevitable when I'm a little older, but I hope to put that particular symbol of maturity off as long as possible. Florence and I each wore our pullovers, as it was cold on the boat deck. I sat in a deck chair for a few moments, breathing the refreshing air and looking up at the stars. In every other direction I could see the blackness of the ocean. Mostly, I could not even see that, but I sensed it. The ship's lights seemed warm and comforting in the midst of this lonely ocean. A first-class gentleman, I do not remember his name, walked past me and began to light a cigarette. "Excuse me, miss," he began, then paused to look at me more closely. "Aren't you Evelyn Carstairs' maid? I'm not sure you're permitted out on this deck." I instantly felt ashamed, but also angry. "I'm chaperoning a dog," I answered. He shrugged, lit a cigarette right in front of me, and continued on his way. Gentlemen never smoke in front of ladies, but I suppose servants don't count. My peaceful time ruined, I got up and returned inside. I must try to remember that. For the most part, people on the ship had been very nice to me indeed, and he'd smelled of whiskey, so perhaps he was not in his right mind. Even so, it hurt my feelings. Join us for more on Monday. Cheers.